Hello everyone, Namaste all. I'm Suryakala. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to narrate a story of a flower girl, Eliza Doolittle. And this is a play. It was written by George Bernard Shaw, GB Shaw. And so the name of the play is Pygmalion. GB Shaw has adapted this story from a Greek mythology. So what happens in the Greek mythology is there is a king, Pygmalion. He is the king of Cyprus and also a gifted sculptor. So he creates a beautiful ivory statue. The statue is so beautiful that he falls in love with the statue. So Pygmalion prays to goddess of beauty and love, Aphrodite. So Aphrodite gives life to this lifeless statue. She is named as Galatea. Pygmalion and Galatea, they both get married and they live happily forever. So G.B. Shaw has taken this Greek mythological story as an inspiration for his play Pygmalion. In G.B. Shaw's play Pygmalion, Pygmalion is Professor Higgins and Galatea is a Cockney-speaking flower girl, Eliza Doolittle. In this play, Professor Higgins creates his own Galatea by transforming a Cockney-speaking flower girl into a well-mannered duchess by changing her speech and manners. But this play is a bit different from the original Greek mythology. In this play, Pygmalion, the Pygmalion Professor Higgins does not fall in love with Eliza Doolittle. They don't get married at the end of the play. Eliza marries to someone else. George Cukor, a famous American director and producer, he directed a movie called My Fair Lady in the year 1964. He has taken inspiration from this play, Pygmalion. It was a musical comedy drama. It was a commercial hit at that time and this movie won many awards. Awards like Oscars. This movie won 12 Oscar awards in different categories and Golden Globe Award, a New York Film Critic Award. There are many more awards in different categories. So it was a successful movie at that time. Now let's get into the story of Pygmalion. The main characters in this play are Professor Higgins. He is a professor of phonetics. He's a phonetician. So he can tell based on the speech the person has come from which place in United Kingdom. He is a cocky, arrogant and unemotional. He is a 40 years old bachelor. He trains her to look like a upper class girl. And the next character in our play, Colonel Pickering, he is the friend of Professor Higgins. He is an Indologist. Indologist is a person who does study about Indian art and culture, tradition, languages, history. So he also is part of this experiment, transforming this flower girl into a well-mannered duchess. And our next character, Eliza Doolittle, she's a flower girl from a working class. Alfred Doolittle, father of Eliza Doolittle. Mrs. Higgins, mother of Professor Higgins. Mrs. Eynsford Hill, a lady from the upper class. Clara, daughter of Eynsford Hill. And Freddie, son of Eynsford Hill, and he's the one who falls in love with Eliza. The play starts with a heavy rain. Due to unexpected heavy rain, people from different parts of London, they seek shelter under a portico of St. Paul Church in Covent Garden. There is a mother, daughter, son, and there's a flower girl, and also there is an elderly gentleman, retired military person, Colonel Pickering, and also there is a person who takes down some notes Whenever people, speaks based on their speech, he can tell that the person is from which part of London. He is none other than Professor Higgins. And there is a flower girl also. Colonel Pickering and Professor Higgins both are good friends. They know each other for a long time. Both of them are scholars of speech. Professor Higgins bets that he can transform Eliza Doolittle from a Cockney speaking flower girl to a well mannered duchess by using phonetics. In the next scene, Eliza Doolittle comes to meet Professor Higgins. She wants to improve her speech. She wants to improve her language. So she offers him some tuition fee also, but Professor Higgins laughs at her. Colonel Pickering tells Higgins that he will bear the entire cost of this experiment for all the 6 months. Now it's clear that Eliza will stay at Professor Higgins' place for the next 6 months. She will be trained to speak well as a lady of high class, and she'll be also trained to behave like a duchess, manners. Colonel Pickering tells Higgins that he will bear the entire cost of this experiment for all the 6 months. Professor Higgins tells his housekeeper to bathe Eliza Doolittle and give her fresh, good clothes. Meanwhile, Alfred Doolittle, father of Eliza Doolittle, enters into the scene and he asks Professor Higgins to return his daughter. His intention is to get some money from Professor Higgins by blackmailing him. So, Professor Higgins gives him some money. Eliza Doolittle comes into the scene, but Alfred Doolittle could not recognize her by looking at her new lips. She looks different. Eliza looks pretty in her blue dress. Everyone looks at her. She amazes everyone by her looks. Even her father could not recognize her. For a few months, Professor Higgins trains her to speak well, to speak properly, and he even trains her to behave like a high class lady. Now, the first trial is at Mrs. Higgins' place. Mrs. Higgins is mother of Professor Higgins. Now here she is introduced to Ainsford Hill, Clara and Freddie. She speaks well with everyone. Everyone are amazed by her look. She impresses everyone. She impresses every one of them by her speech and looks. Here, Fedri looks at her and he's attracted to her. All goes well till now, but suddenly Eliza speaks her old accent in front of Ainsford Hill. So after all the guests leave the party, then Mrs. Higgins asks Professor Higgins, and she scolds her son because after this experiment, what is going to happen to Eliza Doolittle? It will lead to so many problems once the experiment is over. But Professor Higgins and Colonel Pickering, they don't take her words seriously. Now, for the second time, Eliza Doolittle attends the ambassador's garden party. She passes the test as a duchess, and Professor Higgins wins his challenge. Now the experiment is over. Professor Higgins and Colonel Pickering, they feel bored. But Eliza Doolittle comes to know about their experiment. She gets hurt deeply. She throws slippers at him. Eliza asks Professor Higgins, what am I going to do now? Where should I go? What should I do with my life? Then Professor Higgins tells her to open up a flower shop or marry someone. Professor Higgins accuses her for not having gratitude. She returns all her jewelry to Professor Higgins, which he had bought for her earlier. She runs away from Professor Higgins' house, and the next day, Professor Higgins goes to his mother's house with Pickering and tells her that Eliza Doolittle has gone away from his house. Now, Alfred Doolittle, Eliza's father, suddenly becomes rich because someone who has died, he was a millionaire. He gave all his money to Alfred Doolittle. Now, Alfred Doolittle is unhappy with his money, with his sudden wealth because he cannot go back to his past life. He likes his old lifestyle. Surprisingly, Mrs. Higgins, mother of Professor Higgins, hides Eliza on upstairs and scolds Professor Higgins and Pickering for playing with her emotions. Eliza enters into the room and she thanks Pickering for always treating her like a lady. Eliza tells Professor Higgins that Freddie loves her and she's going to marry Freddie. As she leaves the room, Higgins assumes that Eliza will return to him and she will stay with him. And the play ends with this loud laughter of Professor Higgins thinking that Eliza will marry Freddie. The main themes of this play, language and speech, appearance and identity. So, based on one speech, how we speak, the society always tells a person has come from which background. And also appearance, these are the two uh, things that play a very important role in the society. And there is also identity crisis in this play, the conflict between nature and nurture. When Eliza comes to know about the experiment, when she realizes that she is the guinea pig for their experiment, she feels devastated that what is going to happen her. She's neither a flower girl nor a duchess now, so how is she going to manage with her life? So this play tells us how social identity forms and based on speech and physical appearance. Through this play we also understand that manners and language can be learned, speech can be modified no matter which background we come from. English language is no one's property. Anyone can learn it if you focus. The reason why I took this play to narrate in this video is I just want to tell you all that. I just want to encourage you all that we all can acquire this language. It is not difficult. If we practice, if you continuously practice speaking this language, we will definitely improve our communication skills. Friends, this is all about the story of a flower girl. If you like it, share it to your friends and subscribe to my channel. Thank you all. Take care.